Thanks for joining us on Mountain Echoes. Mountain Echoes is your current affairs program that crosses on different discussions that are animating the national discourse. Of course, tonight we would have something to talk about, something that has been widely discussed in the country, and of course, even here in FAKO division. Well, by now you should know that at least 40 villages in FAKO division are at crossroads of being annulled. Well, should say in simple terms, being rejected or cancelled. And of course, chiefs being annulled from their position. Well, the government has taken firm decision to regularize their village and chief sector in the FAKO division, bringing in those who are right and those who are not supposed to be them be removed with immediate effect. The senior divisional officer for FAKO, Mr. Shaibu, has been on the realms or in that effect. At least one village has already tasted the wrath of the senior divisional officer. We're talking about Mokota village. A host of others have been summoned and had a series of discussions with the senior divisional officer. Now, tonight, a discussion centers around the process and procedures for annulling a village in FAKO division. We get to talk with indigenes and legal experts, even land justice experts, to understand how this is getting to this high temperature. I want to thank you very much for joining us once again. My name is Yanick FONKI, and of course, my guests are in the studio. To stay tuned. Welcome once again. Now, my guests are in the studio. We have LUMA EKEMA. He is an indigene from the Mukbe land and a scholar for that matter. He's been investigating a lot of issues, including fake villages and fake chiefs in FAKO division. We're always excited having him in the studio. Thank you very much for joining us, Mula.
Thank you for the opportunity given me to come here and share with all of us the prevailing situation in FAKO division, which is very, very ugly, sad, and people hate to hear what is happening. So we are here to correct the wrongs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll also be joined by His Royal Majesty, that is Daniel DIPOKO. He is the traditional ruler, I should say the second-class traditional ruler of Missaka village. He's also a scholar in the University of Boya. We're always excited having him in the platform. Definitely, he would be joining us very shortly. Also, to join us is Dr. Kien Pelagie. She is a land and environmental justice advocate. She would definitely be shedding light on a number of issues about land justice in Cameroon. We're also going to have Mr. GOBINA Simon. Mr. GOBINA Simon is a youth Bakweri, a Bakweri youth who definitely has been at the forefront of the creation or the viewing of the creation of many villages in FAKO division. He has a lot to tell us in the course of this program. This and you definitely who is watching would make this program a success. Remember, you can always join us anytime in the program by sending us your contributions with that number on the screen. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. And of course, we kickstart the program quite immediately to understand the context to which all of this is happening in FAKO division. To begin, Mola, just put us to context. What is actually happening? Why there's so much talk about villages in FAKO, chiefs in FAKO, and land in FAKO?
Thank you, Yanick. You see, this phenomenon is coming rife at this time because there seem to have been a discovery of some land which was not occupied, which has laid fallow for years, for centuries, and there seem to be a cartel of some people, some who are chiefs and some who are, we call it elites, and for me I classify all of them misguided. There are about 3 or 4 of them, and they think they can make wealth only by finding out where these empty spaces of land, which is not CDC land, and that is where there are, as the governor rightly used to put it, they go and misinform administrators, and they go about creating villages which did not have native names. Because if you put a village you call Foe is what? No, there's no Bakweri village that is known as Foe or Mehe. No Bakweri village. So this is where they have even exposed themselves. So the long and short of it all is that this phenomenon has become rife, and it has now awakened the civil society and most of the indigenes of FAKO to say that this phenomenon is not going the right way.
Right.
People just want land to sell, and when they get the land, they sell, because these places never ever existed. So this is where the problem is.
Right.
And we had to complain. The matter was taken to the National Assembly, and parliamentarians spoke about it, and the Minister of Territorial Administration was shocked and hit by this, because the procedure to have done all of this was wrong.
Yeah.
And now they have to be corrected. And that's why we want to say kudos to the new senior divisional officer, Mr. Shaidu, who is now trying to redress this particular phenomenon. So, as you hear, he is on it.
Right. He's definitely on it, and he's performing his duty so well. We understand that at least 48 villages in FAKO have already been summoned by the senior divisional officer. Yes. We have as many as 25 of them in Boya subdivision alone, yes. 12 of them in Tiko subdivision, yes. and at least 15 of them or more in the Limbe, that's the Limbe subdivisions. Yes. And of course, the senior divisional officer has been reviewing their files and summoning the divisional officer of these subdivisions, as well as the villages in question with their chiefs. And well, who knows, in the days ahead, a lot of news would be coming up. But Mola, let's get straight away to our topic of today. Can we understand the procedure for creating or reviving a village here in FAKO division?
Thank you, Yanick. This term of creating or reviving is coming in now when people are opening their eyes and saying, but this was never existing. This one was never there. The reason is because in some of these villages, you find people who are not, who don't even come from that same vicinity, are the ones called chiefs. And that's why they are rightfully called fake chiefs. Because they don't come from, they don't hail from those particular vicinities or areas where the villages are created. Now, when you talk about revamping, to the best of my knowledge, I know that for a village to be revamped, which was never existing, the attention of the administrator in that particular location is called. His attention is called to it. He is the one who now following the channel and sense, okay, I will just give an example of like one, say Ekande. Now, they say Ekande, this is a village that existed around, say, Moya area. But it was extinct. Maybe because of war, maybe because of, in those days that the Germans came and they drove most of the people because they wanted that land for their plantations and that kind of a thing. I'm giving an example. And of course, the senior divisional officer now refers the matter to the ministry. And the ministry now, they will go and look at those maps and find out if a candidate ever existed at all in FAKO division.
Right.
Once it is located, then they will now send the information back
To the SDO.
to the SDO, and the SDO will do the same to the maybe DO. And then the DO now will summon the people who come around that area who are asking for not really a recreation, a revamping of the place. And now, when that is done, it is now easy for the DO to carry out investigations as to who were the real people who came from that particular area. It is not difficult. It is true that people migrate. Now, once that is done, there's one very important traditional right that has to be done.
Right.
And this one is as a result of finding out these people who want this village revived. Do they come from there? If the answer is yes, then they will now look at the family tree and know who really was the first or the founder of that place or the first chief. Because I want to say this, Mr. Yanick, no chief is made who does not take over from another chief that was in that place. No chief.
Right.
And this is why you hear all these places are termed fake. Because the procedures, most of the time the procedures are not followed. I'm sure you get my point.
Absolutely.
Most of the times the procedures are not followed. And so it is incumbent on the administration to liaise with the population, the chiefs of that particular area in question, to find out who really were the people who were, which are the families that were in that particular village. Just to clarify, I give you an example, like when you hear Wonyalionga. Wonyalionga means the children of Lionga.
Lionga, definitely.
Which means Lionga was the one who founded that particular village, who started it. And so his lineage any of them can be appointed by the kingmakers to be maybe the next king or the next chief, sorry. If that procedure was followed and is followed, there will be no problem. But I want to tell you that what is being done now is just a quest for getting land and straightforward to do what? Sell it. And even share it. And the point that is also aching us is that you know yourself that you cannot be, say, you are here in, let me call this place, this is Bokwango. And inside Bokwango, where you come from, you discover that there are 3/4 of the people in Bokwango are non-indigens.
Right.
Are you safe?
No.
This is where the problem is.
Right.
Because the land is sold indiscriminately. When on the contrary, this land is supposed to be divided to the indigens, the community that makes up that village. But that is not the phenomenon now. And this is where the civil society is saying no, something must be done and must be done rightly.
Absolutely.
So there I stand.
Right. Now, let me put some context, some flesh to this whole imbroglio from the time when the Cameroon Development Corporation was founded, as far back as in the 1940s, when the German annexers or colonial masters decided to have a plantation of over a vast area of land. And of course, FAKO division was selected as its hope based on the very volcanic and very agriculturally rich soil. And so the Germans felt that the Bakweri land would be the land. I should say the FAKO land will be the land that it will, of course, sow its crops. And that is how many villages went extinct, as the Germans, of course, invested so well in many parts of FAKO division. And of course, it is said that it was leased at the time. And of course, in the 90s, a group of FAKO indigenes grouped themselves under the Bakweri Land Claims Committee and put in strong effort to ensure that what belongs to them be given back to the natives, considering that FAKO, the population was growing increasingly and there was need for land to occupy the additional population. And of course, after the government failed to heed to the claims of the Bakweri Land Claims Committee, it took the matter out of Cameroon and of course to the African court where the matter was heard and then given in favor of the BCC or the Bakweri Land Claim Committee. And of course from there the government began ceding land to the people of FAKO division. Well, you know the rest of the story. The CDC was always authorized by the government of Cameroon cede this portion of land per request from different villages in FAKO regards to the increase in the population. Well, and from the late 90s to the moment we're speaking, almost all the villages in FAKO have been requesting for land, and also villages who are claiming to have been extinct were swallowed by the German plantation at the time are claiming to be reviving themselves. And that is why we're having so many villages that were born or are still being born out of this whole thing. Well, it reached at some point when concerns were raised that many of these villages actually are not existing, or they are existing, but the chiefs that are being designated there are not from such places. And of course, concerns were raised, and the first big open discussion started when the paramount ruler of Boya designate was being coronated. Of course, during the official installation or opening a viewing to the public, the president of the committee made that known to them. And even in Limbe, when the president also of the committee to coronate the paramount ruler of Limbe, LUMA, also made that known too. The Minister of Territorial Administration was present in these occasions. And of course, investigations were done, and the government took interest into the matter and of course requested that all land ceding should be stopped. and definitely those fake villages should be annulled, and fake chiefs should be removed. And such investigations have been on. The present senior divisional officer for FAKO, Mr. Shaibu, has taken that as a priority and has been making effort towards cleansing, well, I should say cleaning the FAKO land. And so many people have been indicted into all of this. But how far is this going to be? It's a very complex scenario. Now, what does it take? I asked this question before, but I like to ask again. How does it happen that a chief leaves, or someone, just an ordinary person, leaves an area of origin and then moves to an area and claims to become a chief? How is that done? Because there are a lot of procedures that are being followed before a chief is actually designated, and the administrator is supposed to do a lot of background check, a lot of due diligence is done. How can the administrator be derailed that much? Because it's been claimed administrators are being fooled, are being derailed in the process. How can that be done?
Well, Yanick, as I was telling you, there is a living cartel which is headed or composed by a few misguided chiefs who have taken this as an opportunity to make wealth. And so when they come up with this idea, they are now go a hunt to look who is interested. And the moment they get who is interested, they immediately bring him on board.
Right.
And information reaching all of us, which is even verifiable, these fellows are asked to pay sums of money, large sums of money, some 5-6 million, before they are given their designated chiefs in those particular areas that they want them to be. Unfortunately, they were doing it not knowing that they say one day for the master, 40 days for the thief.
For the thief, right. 99 days for the thief, 1 day for the owner.
What good? So whatever, but what I'm saying here is because now they are all taken aback. They never ever knew that one day it will come, the revelation will come out and people will be asking questions. How can you leave Mukunda Mumbenge, which is in Limbe 2, and you are a chief in Muyuka? How? How can you leave what we call Likombe and Bwasa, and you are a chief in Tiko? It doesn't, I mean, it is out of the normal. It's out of our traditional ethics. These are the things that are causing eyebrows. And we say, no, because this is not properly done. First is to halt the exercise. And then after this, there's going to be investigations as to how you, Mr. Yanick, who came from Bova, and you are chief in Tiko. Because it's not going to be for free.
Right.
And so when they were doing it, with the pride of just wearing the crown of the chief, and now it has come the way it has come, they have now, time will come where they will come and justify.
Right.
And for the land that we're giving to them that they have sold, time will come when that land, they have to account for the land. So this is where the problem is.
Right. Well, that's interesting. That's very interesting there. Don't you think that the administration is to blame? Because the seem not to do their own work very well, to have given giving some kind of floodgates for chiefs to have the opportunity to come for titles, to create new villages. Do you think the administration has a part to blame? Because all the discussion is centered around fake chiefs and fake that. Don't we also have administrators who didn't do their background checks so well?
For sure. There's no way they can be left out, because you cannot be, for instance, I'm a teacher of this class. If anything happens in my class, I should be held responsible.
Right.
That's the first person. So there's no way, you cannot escape from that. This is being overt and being direct. They are to be blamed. You should not be lulled. First of all, it is popularly said that there's no ignorance in the law. You have to find out and be sure before you append your signature. So even them, of course, they will be questioned. Even them.
That's really...
Even them, they will be questioned.
Right. So, right at the moment, let us talk with His Royal Highness Chief Daniel DIPOKO. He is the second-class traditional ruler of Missaka village. We're always excited having him on platform because he has a lot to tell us. And as a traditional ruler himself, he's been very concerned with the proliferation of villages and chiefdoms in FAKO division. And of course, his concern have been that of has been as much as indigents and even people of goodwill or well-wishers in FAKO division. Thank you very much for joining, Your Royal Highness.
Thank you very much, Staffman Yanick, and thank you also, EKEMA. I'm very sorry for a late entry. I was held back with other imperatives.
Right.
But they said, as they say, it's better late than never. So even if it's 1 minute, I will put my voice in that 1 minute, and I'm sure it will make small sense.
Yes.
All right. Talking about the topic, I think it's an interesting topic. It's a topic that we've been working on for all this while because a lot of things have been going wrong, and we felt that we should put our hands on deck to try to correct these ills. I think the predominant question that exists at the moment that people have asked, even in our Bakweri politics forum or in our different Bakweri groups, people have been asking, is it not a shameful thing for us to embark on this mission to try to expose our brothers? Some have asked, what will you gain for the downfall of your brother? And many questions like that. And I think it is proper for me to answer such a question on this platform.
Right.
The question may also come in the form of a question. Provided you are supposing you are a judge, let's assume you are a judge, and your child just murdered someone, and it is proven beyond any reasonable doubt that it is murder, and you have to preside over that matter to either silence the matter, set him free, and twist the law, or declare him guilty and sentence him according to the law. I think our society will agree that it is a noble thing to actually sentence that child according to the law. If any judge will act like that, I think people will instead uphold such a judge. But if a judge will act vice, people may even take to the streets to contest his decision. We look at the case of, let me not go into that, that's a little politic. But I have discovered in the society that when people act according to the law, or act according to morals, or act according to the Bible, or according to certain norms that are morally okay in the society, people uphold them. Why do we think that if we expose certain wrongs, it is a shame to us? Instead, it is a shame to us if we see the wrong and we don't expose it. In fact, in the book of Isaiah, there's a scripture that says, woe is you if you see evil and call it good. That curse is upon you when you see something wrong and you stay aloof, you stay neutral. You have to point it out. And it is our place to point it out that this thing is wrong. We have been looking at how villages were created, how villages came to existence, and things like that. Like Mola made a statement when I just came in that the whole process has to be halted and then overhauled before we can actually move forward. We have to put a stop and then think of how to revamp and put procedures, structures that are strong enough to be able to carry on with the future. If we don't do that, I think we will be making a very big mistake. Yes.
So, my question to you is, what went wrong? It would appear it is only in the mid-2000s that we started seeing the cropping up of new villages, or should say villages who are regarded to be extinct. How did it all get this bad?
They said you actually die before you die. The truth is that people have been crying foul play for long. It's just that we didn't have the right structures and the right persons to listen to the cries of the people. People have cried seriously, on a serious note. Those who have been cheated, those whose areas have been taken away from them by unscrupulous rich men, in quotes, are crying. But their voices are not heard because they don't have money. Their voices are not heard because they don't have connections. So I think this is an era where even the common man, the poor man, the man without the connection is also heard. So it is not today that this cry started. For you to see the presidency take a stand, on such, in such a grip, very hard. It means they have been listening to cries. You know, if you read in the Bible, it says, and God said, your cries have reached heaven and have come down with a strong hand to deliver you. You know, so sometimes when cries go too much, and I think that this cry is not only to the presidency, even went up to heaven, because the heart of a king is in the hands of the Lord. So the Lord had to tune the heart of the king that no, it is time to act for the people of FAKO, and then we had our breakthrough. So this is not breakthrough yet. It's just the beginning of the breakthrough, and it's going to come more and more and more, and we'll see better days ahead.
Right. So this aspect of saying fake chiefs, fake villages, is it that these villages actually do not exist? Yes.
There we go. The villages actually, some did not exist, some did exist. The trouble we are facing is some people go to become chiefs in villages that never existed. Then the second trouble is some people go to become chiefs in villages that existed but who do not belong to those villages. I think these are the polemics, the situations that we have on ground at the moment that we are trying to see how we can handle. Yes.
Right. And like I asked Mola before, the administration is at the forefront of all of these. How is it that the administration is being dribbled to the point that they don't recognize all of this, considering the very difficult process and procedure in either reviving or creating a village?
I will not blame the administration, quote unquote, or per se. Like I said here on one of the our discussion, that the law of 77, of 15 July 1977, has not changed on chieftaincy issues.
Right.
And that law does not befit 2022. There is need for that law to be revised.
So it's repugnant.
Yes, to actually carry the realities of today. That law was made some years ago and it served its purpose. But, you know, there is need for us to come back to a place where we can now say, okay, for instance, the law only mandates the DO or it sets competent authority, who is the DO here, to go and carry out consultative and consult the families that are concerned. But I think that as at the moment, the law should take into consideration the House of Chiefs, or if possible, the Chiefs Association. You know, they too should be incorporated into this system, because they know the traditions and customs of the people more than even the administrator who is coming. The administrator is only looking at the law, but we are looking at the customs and the traditions of our people. And if it is abused, it falls back on us. So I don't blame the administration per se. I blame the law at the moment. And I say that there's need for that law to be revised.
Right. Of course, this is Mountain Echoes you're watching, and the discussions are getting really heated here. We would be discussing with a land justice, or it should say an environment and land justice expert and advocate in the person of Dr. Ken Pelagi, who is in the studio to talk about that. But first, let's have this short break.
Anniversary this day at Sumo Support Cathedral for his impact in their lives. The world commemorates the World Day of Audiovisual Heritage this day, as many take time to recount their earliest experience with the various analog media facets in a digital era. Hello there, good evening, and thanks for joining us on Divine Mercy Prime. I am Myron Genyi for presentation. Those were our top stories. The news will be yours in a bit. Children of Monsignor Jervis KB have celebrated this day, his impact in their lives as a spiritual father. This was in the context of his 35th anniversary at the Small Support Cathedral in the presence of his brother priests, religious and some lay faithful. More of the story with Reverend Father Alphonse EKEMA.
At the premises of Small Support Cathedral, priests, religious, and godchildren are gathered to celebrate the 35th anniversary of a brother priest and spiritual father to many, Monsignor Jervis KB.
When a priest is called father, it really means he should strive to show the loving tenderness of God, the Father, to the flock entrusted to his care. Celebrating 35 years of Monsignor Jervis' priesthood, therefore, is celebrating 35 years of God's fidelity, God's bounty in allowing Monsignor Jervis to be a reflection of the fatherliness of God expressed in different ways to God's children.
35 years in the ministry is a whole bulk of experience that has shaped the life and ministry of the celebrant.
35 years have not been a bed of roses. There have been ups and downs, but as I say, I braved them as they came. I was ordained here in Sopo. I worked for some time. I was working from Fiango, but at the bishop's house at the time, then moved to Muyuka. I went to Rome and came back, worked as youth chaplain and came as Bishop Rogan College rector. Those were years with their own challenges to the reality of the time.
Godchildren of Monsignor Jervis KB recount his active role in their lives, making them what they are today.
God has impacted so much in our lives. Like I said, I'm only representing a number of us. We're so many of us. We're a crowd. We will trouble him. But every time I think of him and I think of what I am today, I thank him for it. Ever since I knew him, he's the father figure that has been in my life. I knew him at a point in time when I was about backing off as a Christian child, but he encouraged me a lot, and my family, my entire family has gone to know that he is the Father Jervis of my life. I am who I am today because of him.
Lessons from his priestly ministry are handed on to his brother priests through words of caution for their lives.
If you do your spiritual duties sincerely and assiduously, you will have your material rewards and your material needs taken care of. But sometimes, unfortunately, we are human. Some persons have concentrated on trying to gather for their material benefits. It derails and it distracts and it bemeans the life of the priests.
Celebrating the life and ministry of a priest is always a joyful experience and an inspiration to others who look up to the priests. Such is the case of Monsignor Jervis Kebi, who remains a mentor to many.
Members of the communication
caliber, namely making an appraisal of all the 6 arms involved in communication.
It's important for us, therefore, to have this meeting so that we can appraise the work that has been going on in the various communications departments that we have.
Most, if not all, participants expressed sentiments of gratitude to God for such a vital meeting, which was and remains the very first of its kind, involving all organs of communication.
I think this is a novelty. The first time all the organs of communication are coming together, and it has helped us to understand that communication is not only television and radio, and that we have the means of communication: bookshop, website, television, radio, printing press, and panorama. This is so wonderful, and everybody is living from here enriched by also understanding how the other organs are working.
Meanwhile, other participants emphasized on the need of proper marketing of the TV as well as the other arms of communication through aggressive publicity.
By my understanding, is packaging your good and taking it, effectively to, your clients. So for me, it is proper packaging, and that proper packaging will have a lot of other components. It depends on what your good commodity you have to sell.
Having elaborated profoundly on these different facets of communication for the betterment of the diocese, all were fulfilled as the future seemed to be somewhat promising.
There is a hope because it is necessary that it is important as we have come today to sit and assess ourselves to see how far we have gone and the challenges we've had and the lapses, and then to pick up from these mistakes or the challenges we have, we pick up the points we have deliberated here. It is actually work in progress. So after such evaluation, we just move to adopting some of the proposals which were given by the members of the committee.
In all, for every institution or service to be relevant, prominent, successful, as well as make progress, there is the need for frequent meetings as these.
Staff of Our Lady of Lourdes Gardens in Limbe have been called upon to deliberate and present possible solutions that could better their working conditions and those of the students left under their care. The proprietor of schools in the Diocese of Boyer, His Lordship Michael Bibi, made this call during a meeting this Wednesday, October 26th, after the commencement of their inaugural Mass in Limbe. Gillian Tatayenla with the details.
The rhythms and colors that vibrated the Our Lady of Lourdes primary and secondary school gardens echoed across the city of Limbe. The bishop is on campus to commune with the learners and teachers, giving them moral and spiritual boost for a successful 2022-2023 academic year. The bishop will later commune with the key stakeholders of the institution, making appraisals of their activities and challenges, all in a bid to equip them for a successful academic year.
We have realized that our school is growing faster most especially because of the nature of education we are providing. You know, as a Catholic institution, we provide a holistic education where we don't rely too much or only on academics, but we are also showing concern on the morals and other aspects of our students, so that by the time they leave here, they are going to be very productive in the society. The population is increasing seriously. We need more classrooms. We need benches. We need laboratories to be equipped. Food and nutrition laboratory, the IT laboratory, the science laboratory. We need all that because practicals makes things perfect when you blend it with the theory. Normally, the bishop, as promised, is going to see what to do.
Teachers and school administration used the opportunity to express their challenges to the bishop, all in the spirit of having a suitable atmosphere to produce great results.
Promise in high school, so we are sure all those things because it's a man as well.
The staff, students and pupils bid emotional farewell to the bishop with the hope of seeing him again.
Christians of St. Peter the Apostle Parish, Missaka, have been called to remain humble so they can be exalted by God. The Bishop of the Diocese of Boyer, His Lordship Michael Bibi, made the call recently while on a pastoral visit to that parish. Yanick FONKI now comes back to the major highlights of the visit.
St. Peter the Apostles Parish, Missaka, is pregnant with many historical events, especially linked with the early missionary activities.
Missaka is not just an ordinary parish, but that from Missaka, the St. Jude Apostolate saw its origin.
From the nooks and crannies of Missaka, the Christians have turned up in their numbers to welcome their bishop who is making his visit to the parish for the opportune time.
The parish is at the heart of the bishop. The parish is at the heart of the bishop. The bishop made 5 visits last year, or let me say 2 years ago. He made 5 visits, and on the occasion of the last fundraising, the bishop himself was present, and he gave us his own donation.
In his homily, the chief shepherd exhorted the Christians to remain humble so they can be exalted by God.
Person will be humble, will take itself down. God will hear you pray.
The Christians promise to imbibe and translate the message in their daily lives so they remain exemplary children of God.
We need to humble ourselves for God to raise us up, because our motto is to serve and not to be served. So being serving means you humbling yourself, and I think that is one of the things we as CWA members will like to always do and practice.
I, as a president of CMA members, those other members that are not here today to get the humility, I will go back and then in our meetings preach humility to them, explain what actually humility is all about, so that they too can understand what is humility and then follow what our bishop has explained to us.
A fundraising ceremony to erect a befitting sanctuary for the church crowned the bishop's pastoral visit.
Dwelling on the topic of disillusion and sadness, which is sometimes considered to be a negative experience, Pope Francis continues his weekly catechesis this Wednesday, October 26th, by indicating on some important aspects of spiritual growth. More insight of the story with Reverend Father Michael Njomo.
The Holy Father Francis focused his catechesis during the Wednesday general audience on the first effective mode and an object of discernment, desolation. Recalling the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola, Pope Francis said desolation can be defined as darkness of soul and disturbance in it, movement to things low and earthly, unquiet of different agitations and temptations. He noted that all of us have experienced desolation in some way, but the problem we face is how to interpret it.
Stesso delle volte lavora come semaforo, fermati, fermati. È rosso qui. fermati, sono triste, c'è qualcosa lì.
The Pope further recalled the Gospel's reminder that the road to goodness is narrow and uphill, requiring combat and self-conquest. He urged those who wished to serve God not to be led astray by desolation and not to make serious decisions without understanding the sadness caused by desolation.
Una regola saggia dice di non fare cambiamenti quando si è desolati.
He continued to urge the people to always seek spiritual guidance in such moments and hope for God's grace to save them from moments of sadness and desolation.
If you're just tuning in, you are watching Divine Mercy Prime. As the world continues to evolve, Cameroon joins the world today, October 27th, to reflect on the audiovisual heritage, as it is noticed that the analog television and radio have stood the test of time. Due to some electrical challenges, some people still prefer to use their analog radios and televisions than the digital ones. More of that story in the following report.
Within a remarkable short time, the analog TV and radio sets have shifted from scientific inventions to items of domestic modernity. Obsolete and heritage items overtaken by digital convergence. The days of analog terrestrial TV sets with valves and cathode ray tubes in bulky consoles are over.
This CD cassette, you cannot play on a normal radio. You can't, because it's a video. You can only play it on a video radio. That plays a video CD that you can see on your screen of the car radio. So that is the difference. So if you put this one in a normal radio, you can never see a video on it and you will never even read. Those are the difference. So meaning the normal radio can only play an audio CD. An audio CD cannot play video radio.
However, many still prefer to have analog TV in their living rooms, attributing resistance and a number of other factors to the reason.
For the analog TV, we want to say that it really lasts. It's one of a kind. It is long lasting, and we just want to encourage the population out there not to think that it is old, because it is still one of the best. I thought because one like me, I have the Chinese type. I cannot watch TV in my house because of maybe low voltage. But with the analog, it is all with that.
Electronic repairers still host some of these analog items in their shop, but intimated that a number of factors inform the decisions of buyers of this product.
Okay. Yeah, the difference between this, we call these normal ones in a kitchen parlance box TV. Why we call the other one flat screen. Yeah, people have decided to love this flat screen in the sense that the nature of the TV, and when watching it, you enjoy the images. Whereas this one it is very, very stressful. But in terms of resistance, this box TV resists more than the flat screen. Because now in Cameroon, we don't have a stable current. There are some times where the light comes with AC to 240. In which we have the normal 20 volt in power. So what I'm trying to say is that for the flat screen, you cannot use it for more than 5 years because it doesn't resist high current or thunderstorm. But with the old model, which is this box TV, you can use it for more than 20 years because it resists.
The wind of change swept so fast on these audiovisual items, causing households to adapt to the changing times.
I prefer the flat screen because it's a little bit bigger and I can really view the images very well. Box TV is a little bit smaller and it takes a lot of space in the house than the flat screen. At least I can hang that one on my wall. Prevents children, my grandchildren, from going around to destroy my TV.
The government announced a switch from analog to digital broadcasting over a decade ago. It is unclear if such changes have been made.
With that report, we draw the curtains on today's edition of Divine Mercy Prime. Before we let you off the hook, a recap of our top stories. Godchildren of Monsignor Jervis gathered to celebrate his 35th anniversary this day at Small Support Cathedral for his impact in their lives. The world commemorates the World Day of Audiovisual Heritage this day, as many take time to recount their earliest experience, which with the analog television and the radio, despite the facets in a digital era. I have been Marion Genyi for presentation. Hopefully, we see you tomorrow same time with more important stories.
Welcome back, dear viewers. This is Mountain Echoes, and our focus tonight is on the FAKO land imbroglio. Of course, the news of fake chiefs and villages have been making headlines across the National Triangle. And tonight we are looking at the process and procedure for gazetting a village and how land is being managed in FAKO division. Well, definitely, I told you about the various persons we have in the studio. I told you we have a chief, His Royal Majesty Chief Daniel DIPOKO, the second-class traditional ruler of Missaka village. He's present here. We also have Mola LUMA EKEMA. He is an indigene and also an advocate, a civil society actor, plus a scholar. We also have in the studio Dr. King Pelagie. She is a land and environmental justice advocate and also a lecturer in the University of Boyam. And as well, we have Mr. Simon GOBINA, who is a lecturer as well, and of course, an indigene in Mokwelan. We're very excited having all of them in the studio. Well, let's just go to talk to those who have not appeared on screen already. Let's begin with Mr. GOBINA Simon. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome, Yanick.
Right. It's always a pleasure having you on a panel. Right. Thank you so much. And also, Dr. King Pelagie, it is your first time coming here, but it's always exciting seeing your very smiling face.
Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much. I don't know, the camera has not been very faithful this night to showing our two guests. But let's go to those whom the camera has been faithful at least for over an hour. His Royal Highness and Mola. Mola, let's start with you because Your Royal Highness rounded up. But you were wrapping up something before.
Yes. I think let me throw a little, give a little summary on this issue of the creation of a village. Before the law came, our customs and traditions existed. The law met them. Villages had a way of undergoing creation in those days. And one of the ways is by reason of strength. When you have your strength, you can conquer people, you can beat people out of a place, then you own the place. So there was no law as per se that the court is going to judge you for beating a person and taking his land or taking him out of his place. And it was like survival of the fittest. So that's one of the strategy and that's why you see in our society we have more of a masculine kind of society because the men were at the forefront of this fight.
The fight, yes.
You know, and conquering territories and all of that. I think my culture has a small history of that also. When they told us how my great-grandfather founded our village, we have some of that kind of history. Another aspect that gave an opportunity for a village to be created was this issue of how did they call it again now? It's this superstitious beliefs, or maybe accusations for witchcraft and things like that. Such people were cast out of a normal society and sent to certain areas. These people went to, like in Nigeria film, you hear of the evil forest. But in our own, we don't have that kind of case of an evil forest. But these people were sent out of those places, and so they took a walk a distant while from the normal village where they found themselves, and then decided to settle there, and then they created their own village, and it became their own harbor. So another issue is the issue of occupation. We have people like farmers, we have hunters. These people went into the bushes, and while they were farming and hunting there, the distance to come to the existing village was a little bit far, so they started building huts and bush houses, what they call bush houses, for their hunting, so that they can stay there and hunt for about 3 months before they come one time, spend a weekend and go back and things like that. After some time, they began taking their families along, making more children there. Then they started expanding, and then it became a village. And then the last aspect is the aspect of segregation for settlers. We have this in Mongo. We have the people who were like the first settlers, and other people came. They felt they were like the freeborn, so they don't want to mingle themselves with the settlers. So they allocated certain areas for them to go stay there, go into the bush there, suit yourself, kind of. So we have the Mongo Island and the Mongo mainland. That's where that idea came on, Right. Let me not go into that. Yes, we have that in Mongo. So when the people came from Douala, they told them, okay, no, you're not pure Mongo, though we speak Douala and all of that. You stay there. And then that place now became, they brought their kind, and then they now settled there, and then it became their village. It's just like what we have today, like Bayangi Kwata, Bamileke Kwata, and things like that, And after some time, those people gained grounds and then became settlers, and it became their own kind of village. Right. But when the law came, the law in itself cannot just come and just create a village. Just create a village here, create a village here. The law does what we call, there are 2 things that can go by the law. One is resettlement. The law can actually say, okay, Mr. Gobina used to be here, but an activity has driven him from here, maybe CDC, and the law now can say, okay, let us resettle Mr. Gobina here in a free environment. Now, but that law in the French version of the law says or states that that process should be done I don't know how to put it now. My English is failing me. That law, that process should be done with the agreement or with the approval of the chief of that particular area. The chief hosting or accepting the new person who is coming to stay beside him. But the English version of the law, surprisingly, says that that process should be done with the chief who is asking to be resettled. And I think there's a problem there. Because, for instance, I am in Mongo, and then you are taking somebody from Boya, for example, to come and resettle him in the Mongo land, to put him in one of my ancestral areas. Yeah. How do you do that without my consent? How do you do that without my knowledge? How do I just wake up one morning and see a story building in my backyard and say, wow, what a magnificent story building? No, I will seek to put it down. And that can even lead to a kind of a civil war scenario. So there is, I think the French version of the law, I was talking with the DO of Tico the other time, he brought the law and we were looking at it. The French version of the law is okay. You have to do that with the awareness or the information of the chief who is going to be the host. I'm the paramount chief of my area. You bring another class chiefdom and put there, he should be under me. If he's not going to be under me, then let him not be around me. Because no 2 captains can be in one ship. And that's where an issue is coming. So the last issue that can permit the law to create a village is under this decentralization, we have a scenario where people can constitute themselves into civil societies, and through the approval of their paramount chief, they can apply that our population is overgrown and we want to create another village. Or these 2 villages were existing as quarters. So we want to create this quarter into a village, or turn it, transform it into a village, and this other one to in the village. So 2 villages now in a place that used to be 1. But the paramount chief of that area should approve of that. I think these are the areas now that you can give the law the power to create a village, because it doesn't bring any confusion. Because you are taking that quarter from the paramount chief, and he's like, okay, I accept, let this finger be taken off so that somebody can feed on it. You know, or no, I won't give out my finger. I prefer to keep the 5. You know, that's the kind of scenario.
Right. That's for creating a village. What about gazetting, reviving a village?
That's what reviving, like revamping. We're talking about villages that existed, and they followed the one of those points that I outlined there. They follow one of them. And if, for instance, I have created my own village somewhere, and then maybe after some time we were chased. There's a village where somebody came as a hunter, and he built his bush house and was doing his hunting. Then the Germans, during the tax collection, they move around, and when they met him there, and they asked him, "What are you doing here?" He said, "This is his place." And what's the name of the place? He gave the name of the place, and they gazetted it. So it's in the gazette, but we in that area, we know that the man came from somewhere to come hunt there. So, but that village is now in the gazette. We cannot argue its existence anymore. It's in the gazette. It's a village. So those are the kind of scenario we're talking about. Villages were gazetted because the Germans move around, and then during the census they went around, but it was mainly because of tax collection. That's what gave room for villages to be gazetted.
Right. Now, let us get to you, Mr. Gobina. What's your own appraisal on this whole much talk about creation of creating of new chiefs and villages and fake chiefs and fake villages, over 48 villages, and maybe in another way the chiefs are at the crossroad of being wiped out. What's your own take on this?
Yeah, Yanick, it's a new phenomenon. It's an innovation. I'll put it like that. It's an innovation. The reason why most of these things come up now is because of distorted history. I want to start from the history. A lot of distorted history is being put down as record for people to see and believe that that is what it is. Like what the chief just mentioned. The hunter settled somewhere, the Germans come, you know, they take the name, it's gazetted, and so on and so forth. My first worry is that if an error is discovered, can't it be corrected?
Right.
No matter how old it is. You know, can't it be corrected? That's point number 1. Point number 2 is we have seen issues here in Cameroon and here in Boya and FAKO in particular, as if we are waiting for Jesus Christ to come and fix them. Because most people feel that, we are not from here, tomorrow we are going to go. And we leave them with their wahala. I think that when people of the land, I say people of the land, mean people who hold the land dear to their heart, get up to say something, whatever administrator you are, whatever person you are holding any position, you should listen. Because the people are called the custodians. A custodian is somebody who have an in-depth knowledge, whose savvy is higher than your own, because you are just coming into the issue. So I think our chiefs and our elites, who are custodians of the land and the culture, should be given the place. For instance, if a commission is being set up to find out who are the fake chiefs or what are those fake villages existing now, they should look for the custodians of the land, not the administrator. The administrators are just there to serve as a backup, as support, to report to the quarters that before the government to make the amendments. That I see is almost like an impossibility, that thing cannot be amended. Now, I'll come back to this issue of distorted history. Because of personal interest and personal gains, a lot of people have made up stories, and the stories are becoming permanent. And I'll tell you one funny joke. Like we used to play, we say, our parents used to take first or second in school. We were not there. They'll tell you when I was in school, if I don't come first, my friend, you call a name like that, I will come second. And that's how we were. Each time I played football, I'll score a goal or whatever. You know, those are things we need to be careful with, because we see them creating trouble, chaos in recent times. The question is, why is there so much talk about land now? This FAKO has been existing for, I don't know,
decades.
Yes. So why, the question is why now? I think, like what the Bible says, there is a time and there's a season. Now, this is the time that people are rising up to say this is wrong, because the trading and the lies which we say will not live for too long have come out. So, to me, I feel that it's something that we need to be gradual. I know it's so vexing. It's been so vexing. I'll put it. I myself sitting here, I'm so uncomfortable with this whole issue, because the way land issues have been going on here, my brother, it's something to wake up from sleep and talk about it in the open.
Right.
Talk about it in the open. So I want to start by saying that if it has started now, we should congratulate the orchestrators. First, I will say the government, because the government they've heard noise, and it's like, this noise is coming from somewhere. What is it all about? Now, we have administrators in those places. Check and find out. If I see a list of fake villages and fake chiefs, to me it's not strange, because in reality there are fake villages and there are fake chiefs existing. Now, my worry now is not even the fake village, is the way the land is being used up. That's my problem here, and I want to talk a little bit about it.
Right.
Now,
because that's what I want.
If I am a fake chief and I'm giving a layout, a village, let me call it a fake village, which has come to reality, the question is, how do I manage it? Now, there are common utility provisions that you and I should benefit from, whether you are from that village or you are not from that village. A playground, a space for school, a space for health center, and a market. Now, if you go through all of these villages that are created,
and a cemetery,
thank you very much. You go to all of these villages that are just created from some small office somewhere, you will find out that, point number one, those so-called chiefs are not even living in those places. Point number two, they have sold the land for peanut money. And point number three, if you ask them their vision for the village, they will not even tell you whether they have a vision or they know what the vision is. So this is a problem. It's so worrisome, it's so vexing. It shows how land is being destroyed and misused by some people who do not even know how the land is. Let me tell you something. I grew up with my father, who told me that land was not meant to be sold. Land was never meant, that's the culture, that's the Bakweri's culture. Land was never meant to be sold for money. If Mola EKEMA is my brother, I'll tell him, I'd like to be with you in one place. Please come and occupy this section. Build your house, make your family, let's live together. Whether you come from the north, whether you come from the south, whether you come from the east or the west. Because I identify you as somebody I can work with. I give you land. Because tomorrow we need one another. So, but today it's a business that you need the binoculars to really understand what is there. You hear some names, they say this man is a land broker. This man is a land merchant. As if these are things that are being traded like gold and silver. Land. Depriving people who historically have a right to settle and give to people who have money. And let me tell you, Yanick, to me this is not even the issue. The crisis that will come in regaining the land, that to me is my concern again.
Right.
Because if you, Yanick, have been operating a fake village, right? And I discover that that's where I come from. What happens to you when they say you are no longer a chief? What happens to you? That's a good question we need to ask ourselves. What happened to the land that you have sold to some people who do not even come from that area?
Actually, we're going to look at that. So it is part of our discussion.
My worry,
because people have really invested so much money.
Yeah, my worry is multifaceted. So I will come back when we get into that point, as you have
Right.
said. But I want to say that the government is doing some work, and the government needs the natives and the custodians to make easy that work, because without the custodians, that work will not be easy.
Right.
The real people or the real chiefs can assist the system in place to identify these villages and to retrace the people who come from this village, so that people can rightfully get what they think is theirs and there will be no trouble.
Right. That's an interesting one there, and well, hopefully we hope the concerned are listening. Now let's come to you, Doc. Amidst all the hula battle that is going on in there is this group of persons who are bearing the brunt. Lands have been ceded to villages, but it would appear it's only the strong men. What do you think is done? What accounts for this? That land is always being given to the strong men. The chief will distribute it with the king's men and maybe some other persons who have paid in some 200,000 or 300,000 in contribution to the demarcation of the land and all that. And the women and the youths who cannot afford such money are almost entirely left out. What accounts for that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Yanick, for that interesting question. I myself have been pondering over it time and again. And what I would say is that, no, when you look at the problem stems from our traditions, our customs, our cultures. It is that which, in the first place, a woman could not own property. You know, she cannot own land. You know, according to our customs and our traditions. So now that puts the woman in a difficult situation. They are seen as the weaker person. You know. And likewise the youths, you know. But then, as we evolve, we realize that things are changing, you know, because if you look at in Cameroon and even in sub-Saharan Africa, you see that we realize that women, they don't really much have those rights. They don't have access rights to land, but they really provide agricultural support or the agricultural resources. When it comes to land, they can make good use of it if they are, you know, open to it. But it becomes wanting because of the traditions that we have, and it is not something strange. It's not limited to Cameroon. That is one thing. As for the youths, I would say that when we look at the laws that be, especially with the comprehensive legal framework that we have, the Land Tenure Ordinance of 1974, which you as you have it, it gives provision. It makes it possible. When it comes to I would say national lands, you know, it tells you the conditions, you know, the terms and conditions for which you can acquire a national land, and they'll tell you who are those responsible, who are those eligible. You talk about Section 9, for instance. Section 9 of the law will tell you communities. Okay, communities have the right to apply. You can talk of the chiefs, you know, but not in their name. And then we also have juristic persons. Okay, but this is with respect to the 1976 decree number 76, which has been supplemented and amended by the 2005 law. Now, it talks of juristic persons in occupation, you know, before 5th of July, before 5th July 1974. So that is the problem. Because as a youth or as a young person, we have who have the ability and the capacity, they are business, they are entrepreneurial, and they can have the money to own land, but you cannot have maybe a land certificate or a land title. So that is the problem because of the laws. So we need to have maybe a change of our laws, because it's over, the 1974 law is over 38 years that is in place, and it has become obsolete with the changing times that we find ourselves. So I want to think that that is the major issue.
Interesting. That's a very interesting one. And
it goes alongside
right.
what I was saying about the law on chieftaincy of 15 July 1977. It's sad. You cannot appoint a chief today in 2022 as you appointed a chief in 1977. These are two different eras, and there's need. And like I keep blaming that, I keep hoping that the coming of the House of Chiefs is going to address some of these issues.
Right. So, LUMA, looking at all of this situation, isn't it exposing the limitations of the Bakweri man? It would appear there was so much discussion about fake chiefs and all of that happening in the Bakweri land. I should say FAKO as a whole, and people are thinking there is so much laissez-faire. We're hearing that an outsider from as far as the northwest, from other parts of the southwest, are chiefs. It appears it's just a no man's land. Everyone can just invade and all of that. It also gives some less weight to the customs and tradition, isn't it?
You're right, Yanick. It is sad enough. Sad in the sense that, I will start from the beginning. The FAKO people, they are more Republicans. They were first not only colonized but civilized by the white. And the coming of the religion, has given them a different way, a different orientation, a different, I would say, brought up. They have a kind of a fear. And this fear is the fear of the Lord, where they find it difficult to, fight back or be very aggressive. They are very welcoming. That's why you will hear in Boya, they will say legendary hospitality. In Limbe, you will hear
town of
friendship, and so forth and so on.
It's called the gateway city.
The gateway city. Now, all of this is all because of the coming of, let me say, religion. The white man came. These are the places they first landed, and they had them, and they did not have the opportunity to think otherwise. Secondly, from what you are saying, it is a mistake. Mistake in the sense that, like His Royal Highness earlier said, people are evolving. People have moved. People have come in. And before they came, you remember I was telling you that if you are given land, and that land is overwhelmed by people who are not of your tribe, the tendency is that you'll be swallowed up, and you have no control, no control, and your existence is as soon as that, because when the people, if 3/4 of the people are strangers, so how can you even manage them? You pass a law, if it comes like when I say like voting, the people vote you. So you have not. These are the So these are the things that the FAKO man is saying. Hey, something is happening here. There's nothing wrong. The Bible even says there's nothing wrong in repenting. So all of what is happening now is that we are coming back to say no. This land is owned. It's not a no man's land. Gone are those days. The other day I was told we have one of our villages, a Boboko village in Enyenge. And this Boboko village in Enyenge, Mr. Yanick, you'll be surprised to hear that the DO of Edinau, who happens to, I'm talking straight things which can be verified.
Right.
I'm not being whether it's xenophobic or whatever. He comes from the northwest and prefers a man called Kum Augustine to be the chairman of that village over the indigenes in that village, and make it difficult for the indigenes in that village to own anything in that village. A man gets up to build, an indigene gets up to build a house and is compelled to scatter the house. You look at these things, is it not a lot of provocation, a lot of things that will make people do things which are not supposed to be done? And if these things are not redressed right now, like His Royal Highness was saying, you are calling for war. And I think we have had enough of that. We are not praying for more of it to come. And that's the reason why government seeing very far is doing what they are doing now. That these things should be halted. The creation of chiefs, fake chiefs, fake in the sense that they don't come from those very areas where they call themselves, they are giving villages. I earlier told you that there's a cartel, that people who have taken this as a hobby of theirs, they want to be rich, so they go around. These are secondary lands that don't belong to the CDC. They are not even a national land as such, but they're whether you call it secondary national land, in the sense that they are not occupied. In some of these areas, like if you go down from Missaka, going through as if you are going to EKEMA, that bush inside there, because it's not owned by anybody, they go there and then they carve it and they carve it into villages. And when they carve it into villages, because you are, let me call it a Bakweri boy, who comes maybe from Bokwango, you are made a chief in Missaka, which is going toward EKEMA. What sense does that make? This is why we are saying that we have had enough of these errors. This is the time to correct them. And we have to sit up. It is true that we are the problem. We are the problem. Because we inform even the administrators. I was telling you, outside this place, when they have seen land, they go and gather people from somewhere else.
The administration is misled.
The administration.
That's the word that is.
Yes.
That's the word that is on everyone's lips.
They distort the whole history of this thing.
I still doubt how the administration is misled with the rigorous process. The rigorous process that gets to.
Let me
because of time, let's just have the other talk. You come back.
Let me share a thought. Let me share a thought to that particular aspect. Firstly, like I said earlier, there is no shame, there is no humiliation in repenting, as Pastor said, and restituting. There is instead it gives you honor. They say people say it's only a fool that goes to sleep when his house is on fire. If you sleep and your house is consumed, you'll be a fool and you'll be a caricature on the streets. But if you rise up and you put out the fire, even though it has burned part of your house, people will see you honorable. So it is very honorable for us to rise up at this moment to say enough is enough.
Yes. Why are you not blaming the administrators for not doing their job very well?
Like I said,
48 villages
they said
the
rat does not blame the man that killed it. Rather blames the man that saw it and said, hey, see that rat? And then the next person killed it. So if that man had not seen him or it, he would have gone it away. But because you saw it, you gave room for the other person to kill. So before the law, you all are accomplices. But according to the rat's own tradition, the man that actually killed it is the man that saw it. So we have identified that they are enablers, they are enhancers, they are supporters, they are facilitators. And like we note that our custom holds that no thief can come from outside if there is no in-house thief. The real thief is the thief in the house. house,
Yes.
who says, okay, daddy is out at the moment, daddy has just gone to the bank to collect 10 million and he has kept it in his room. So the other people come out, they're just reacting to his lead. So the real thief is the man in the house.
Yes.
And that is why I keep blaming ourselves. I keep blaming our brothers who take upon themselves. Like I told you last time in the panel here, that a chief will say, come and give me 6 million and I will make you chief. I will enable you to become chief. One other chief, one time, he was crying that he wants to see the SDO. I said, okay, we'll go and see the SDO. He said, okay, how much should he prepare? I said, prepare something like 50,000 to give him for his entertainment, maybe like his drink. You know?
And that's
Then the man shouted, he said, no, 50,000, he will shout at me that he has given 17 million. My God. I said 17 million. No, I said no. Then I can't take you there again. It means you have even gone past my own.
Your level.
You know. So that shows how much people go to. You can imagine that we are talking about this fake chief issue. You are anticipating to become chief in an area where you are not even called for. Your father is still alive. Your father is a kingmaker in another village. You are leaving to go and be chief in another village. Now you go to that place. You are not even chief, you are not yet been made chief. You go behind and start selling land on paper. I mean, the man has sold 34 hectares of land already as we speak.
That's bad.
And he's not yet been made chief. So now this how do they call it now? This ill luck has caught up with him. And he's confused.
Nemesis.
Nemesis, thank you. That's the right word. Nemesis has caught up with him. And he's confused now because he has to give people's money. You know, I have documents to show that he sold land. Unfortunately for him, the people were like, chief, we passed around your village today to go to a certain village. I said, passing from my village to another village. I said, is it this village? He said, no, not that village. There's another village before that one. I said, which one? And they called the name of my quarter. I said, and they called the name of the person that is the chief of the place. Wow. He has already produced a stamp. He's stamping it chief elect.
Wonderful.
You know, and things like that. So I think that number one, we are blaming our own very people. Because if we stand as one man, just like the Northwesterners are doing, and we saw in is it Mancom? Yes, Mancom. Yes, we saw in Mancom what happened, and you know all the people came together. Even God said in Genesis 11 that if these people be one, and they speak one language, He said nothing shall be impossible for them. Let us go and scatter their language. So one of the things that destroy people is a scattered language, scattered identity, scattered voice, scattered everything. Once it is scattered, you cannot do anything.
Well, and some scholars say the Mokwe man or the Mokwe people are gravely endemic and they need to be protected because slowly but surely it is being fused from atom to ions, and very soon it will be extinct. Now we are seeing some villages have more outsiders than the indigens.
That's it.
Chiefs take lands and sell the entire village to outsiders. What can be done? I mean, what accounts for this first of all, and what can be done to reshape, to reorient all of these? Because we've been hearing of so many strike actions and all of these. What can be done, Mr. Gobina?
Yeah, Mr. Yanick, I will first of all tell you that I'm not God, but I will assure you that the Bakweri man will never be extinct.
Well, we're praying like that.
Yes, will never be extinct. Let's put that by the side.
Absolutely.
We are a people, and only God knows where we are coming from. So we'll never be extinct. Let's leave that for God.
Yes, exactly.
I will come and tell you some few things before I get to your question. When these things happen the way they happen, I'll tell you there is a cabal. There is a cabal. And this cabal, the network within this cabal is so tight or had been tight before, such that no information filters out. There are certain people who are called the untouchables, who rock corridors of power, and they know that whatever you say or whatever you do, they will puncture it before you get to the right appropriate conclusion. That cabal is known. It's not that the cabal is hidden. The cabal is known. But I think that something more needs to be done. Let me tell you, the most strongest man will steal and will be beaten by a small child. because it's known in the public that this man has stolen. That is what is happening now. The cabal will shrink because the population, the entire population, is understanding, is knowing the cabal and is calling the cabal by name. That you, Mr. X, you have done evil to such a people. Now I want to come there. If a chief could own a land, then we will not have trouble. Because a chief cannot own land, that's why we have trouble. The land is given to the chief as a custodian to coordinate the distribution to the families in need. So if the
families
concerned,
yes.
If the chiefs they take this land and say it's our time to make money, I think somebody should cry foul. And this is the foul, this is the result or the feedback of the foul that people have been crying.
That's interesting.
Somebody was courageous enough to take the matter to somewhere before eyes are turning back. I just heard my chief saying that somebody was trying to see the deal. Is it the deal or the SDO?
The SDO.
Okay, the SDO. Ask the question, who is the SDO? Which office is he occupying? Is it a private office or a public office? Why do you need money to go and see the SDO? That's the first question. It will bring me back or bring us back to say that some of these positions of power, they need to be checked. My worry again is the follow-up of things, the way it's done in the country. There is the follow-up mechanism is so snail-like. It's so snail-like. Like we are talking of 1974. Why are we still going back to 74 laws and want them to
work?
Yeah, to work 22. Then it means that we have been sleeping. The system has been sleeping. And we don't even understand again whether the mechanism is still working. We don't understand.
The engine is knocked.
The engine is knocked. So
this
engine is knocked. It needs a new engine so the car can move freely. Because even if you overhaul it, some parts will not function.
Okay.
The people in that car are still at risk. Now you ask the question, what needs to be done? Now what needs to be done is the truth needs to come out. The truth needs to come out. I'm talking this one to the public. The truth needs to come out. If you have an information which is true, not being biased,
yes,
or not being segregatory,
yes,
or not being not portraying hate, bring the truth to the appropriate quarter. It will be looked into wherever you come from. This is not a time to say that I'm related to the chairman of this. I will speak or here. No, you must not be related to anybody. You don't need connection. Knock the SDO's door and see him for an issue. He's a human being. He will listen to you and you will go your way. Take note. Every information you give can be verified.
Absolutely.
And will be understood whether it's true or it's not
false.
true. Chief said, Pa said, how can somebody come from Bokwango and become a chief in
Tiko?
Or in you call that place Missaka. It's that cabal that says, give me 1 million. It's like money doubling. Give me 1 million, I'll give you 5 million. The 5 million that's being given is fake counterfeit 5 million. So if these people who are chiefs today, who are called fake, gave 1 million francs to become chiefs, and they are given land that worth 50 million, that land is called counterfeit land.
That is it.
It's called counterfeit land. And I'll come back to say that the administration is working with the people, the indigents and the custodians to bring out the truth. My worry again, Yanick, my worry again, the people who have bought and have settled, what becomes of those people? That is my worry. That is where we see on TV in Douala, somebody paid Caterpillar came and bulldoze an area where people have been living there for years. There's trouble. And the government or the system in place needs to check that trouble. As Pat said, we don't want to be xenophobic. The Bakweri man is a peace-loving man. If we saw the white man before, is it a crime? If we copied those good values, is it a crime? If we are friendly, is it a crime? So we are saying that all of us, this is not time that you segregate, no, because you don't come from here, you will not stay here. No, this is not the time. If you deserve it, if you merit it, if you acquire it legally, you stay. But 3/4 of this thing, go into federal quarters. You will see plots of individual lands inside state land and so on. The thing is just being marketed. Go to class quarters, it's the same. Go to the forest reserve up there. If the Molongo did not fight hard, I'm telling you, I am part of the Molongo land committee. If we did not fight
I'm also
hard,
a supporter.
Yeah, I'm a supporter.
I'm also a supporter. Yes.
If we did not fight hard,
and just like me, who is that advisor?
That land will have let me tell you, there are many other lands that we are fighting, and we will fight till those people will retire. Because they think that they are strong, they don't want to retire. They will retire, but we are fighting. There's land in Bulu that we are fighting. There's land in Bosta that we are fighting. Somebody gave me an information. I think it needs to be verified, Chief.
Okay.
The land that was given for the DDR center to be built.
Yeah, Bulu.
Opposite
Camp 7. Opposite Camp 7.
The dimension of the land
has been resized.
More than 3/4. Okay. So the DDR center is occupying a very small portion, and then those that the cabal are taking the rest for market. I think those are areas where the government should come and say, let us see what's happening.
We need to verify that.
We need to verify. So this slow snail speed like system should wake up and let things speed up and let some life come into the system, because the life we are not feeling it. It's too slow. So
I want to ask you. Okay, just before. Thank you, Mr. Gobina, for that. But I want to add, because he coins it as cabal, but there is this word. Okay, we call it elite capture. Okay, it is fast. It is wreaking havoc, in FAKO, because what is it all about? It has to do with some form of corruption by our elites, wherein there's this biased. Okay, there's bias, as a result of the way they manage resources, which is meant for the communities. So, which is not right. So, we need to look into that seriously, and the time is now. It is good as we've started talking. Talking is really one form of raising awareness, which is good. And when it happens like this, the people in the community, as they see, they should raise an alarm as soon as possible. We have the boards, we have the land consultative boards, we have the courts. They can always seek redress from there and make sure that before all the land is, is gone, something is done, as soon as possible, because early detection is very important.
Yes. Before you go, Yanick, permit me say something. Now, there is something that to me is frightening. The way CDC land is dwindling in the name of
surrender.
In the name of surrender, take note, CDC, I'll call it, used to be the second largest employer after
the government.
No, it still is. It still is.
I want to say still, it used to be. Because we need to verify now. It is still. To do scientific investigation. It needs to be scientific. The way CDC land has been given out, the way it has shrink or reduced, and the way the workers have left CDC because of some of these activities is frightening to me. Now, I want to say something, Yanick. If 50 people lose their jobs today, what will happen to their families? It means that 50 families are very angry. I mean, very, very angry. Like people say, a hungry man is an angry man. That angry man can do anything for sustenance. I mean, anything. I was in class quarters the other day by 8 o'clock. 2 cars were broken just in less than 5 minutes, where people were active because they saw laptops in the cars. That, or those people who did that work are not people who are responsible. It's because they lack something. We don't know where they are coming from. We don't understand until we verify. So something is coming up. The rate at which theft is going on, and the courage which is done on that, it tells us that it's a signal. It's a signal that things have gone so wrong, and people just say, if it's better I die in the process. So I must take it and make a living and let CDC should be protected by the government, not by me and you, Yanick. It's by the government. It's a state-owned thing. CDC should be protected by the government. If the state says CDC should be given land for people to relocate, where are those people coming from? Where were they?
Well, the population has regained huge size.
Yes.
The population is no longer what it was.
It's no longer what it used to be.
But
we should consider that there are other lands that's not CDC land that needs to be given for people to resettle. And people are not resettling there and nobody checks. The government should check.
I think, Mr. Yanick, let me react a little to that because the issue is truly, like we said, what happened in 60s is not what is happening in 2022.
Exactly.
The population is fast increasing, and we need to also advise ourselves, especially advise even CDC, on thinking of alternative ways of managing, not just a traditional way of just relaxing that I'm here and I'm going to, like they say, well, without end, we'll die here. We should think of what to do to make new strides. Like somebody made a statement. He said, it is not FAKO Development Corporation, it is Cameroon Development Corporation. So like when this crisis came and CDC was almost on a halt, it's because when you are centered when you are in a small clump in a place, if something happens to that place, you are finished. But if you have tentacles elsewhere, diversifying, spread here, you are here. If something is blocking here, this other one is actually producing.
Like a virus attack.
Yes, and then CDC too should consider going inside. There are a lot of forests inside the bush. Individuals may not go and start felling all those boomer trees to build houses. But we also need a structure where when you're coming from the Mongo, to come to Tiko, as I said, is a gateway city. We need to see a city. We need to see, my trouble is not with CDC surrendering land. My trouble is with how the land is managed. My trouble is who gets the land after it has been surrendered. Does it actually go for the purpose it was actually intended? That's where my trouble comes in. So we should also advise CDC that we love so much. The process has been halted, and even if they say tomorrow it will be cancelled, but for now the process has been halted. It means that there are still thoughts that it will come back. But what is happening now is that modalities are being put in place as to how it should be given and how it should be managed in such a way that it actually serves the purpose. So I think with that, we are in good footing.
Mr. Yanick, I have a very pertinent question I want to ask in this platform. Can I be told, I'm sure I'm older than all of you here, and if I'm asking this question, it's because I have a lot of doubts. Can I be told that there's a law that is a constitutional law that says that you cannot serve as an administrator, you cannot serve in your jurisdiction, in your town of origin, or this? Why am I asking this question? I'm asking this question to know, because there are two fundamental issues here that people don't seem to take note of. The first one, we are talking about the way our chieftaincy rights are being trodden to almost to nothing. Secondly, the way our land, our ancestral lands are being just taken like that without any remorse. Now, why am I saying this? I believe that if the administrators, like it used to be in the early, before after, I'm sure all of this started happening after 84. I want to be very frank, because I grew up, I saw things. After 84, it became difficult for children of the origin, let's say if FAKO division becoming DOs or SDOs, they must either come from the DOs or the SDOs in FAKO, must come from somewhere else. And strangely enough, the FAKO children too have those qualifications as SDOs, as DOs,
serving in other places.
Serving in other places. My question is, what is wrong? FAKO is part of Cameroon. If you are given an appointment to work in a, like today we have regional delegates. The other day here, one of my sons who was in Limbe was made regional delegate of
Southwest.
Youth Affairs. He comes from where? He comes from FAKO, and particularly he comes from Boya. And his office is in Boya. And don't you think that there's some peculiarities that
so
he will take into consideration? That is what, if he's not going to save.
We have a number of places.
Excuse me.
Scientific research,
I am
secondary
coming.
education.
I am coming. I know where you are going.
Right.
If he is not going to serve better for being sent in his place, then he does not even deserve to be given any position of that nature.
That's a discussion for another day.
Agree.
That's a discussion for another day.
What I am saying,
because even the land and survey we're talking about,
yes, most of them. Most of them are the ones who are
we should not be hiding
delegates of lands. Yes. Delegates of this, they are children from here.
They are children from the land, and all of this are happening.
That is
so. How do they happen?
What I want to say,
stronger power above them.
Let me tell you something.
But they should ring the bell.
Let me tell you something. That is why we are, what we are doing here, whether anybody likes it or not, we are whistle blowers. We are whistle blowers, and let the powers that be take us for serious.
Right?
Yes.
Why we are saying what we are saying, we are not calling people's names. Yes. We are looking at the phenomenon, how things can be changed for a better, for better living, for better society. Because let me tell you people something. Things will not all go well. I use the word and I mean it. Our land here is, we call it ancestral, because our grandparents lived in those lands. They never sold them. And that's why they resisted the Germans, who wanted to just take it for granted. They resisted it. But at the end, there was a compromise. And time has come now when this generation of my son here,
vibrant, very agile generation.
GOBINA
Simon.
His generation, he called them Molongo. If we of my generation now don't hand over to them something, what is going to happen? They will be the very ones to climb on us and say, look at this one. You were here and we don't have what we are supposed to have. So if you are called a FAKO child, and you are and government, I don't know what I'll use the word, tempts you to make you say a DO, a delegate, a director in FAKO, or what do you call it, a vice chancellor or a chancellor or deputy or whatever in the university which is in FAKO. It is true that it is not a FAKO university, but you are serving there. You have to show something
to the people.
Yes.
I've even reached at that level where you can be accountable to the people. You're accountable to some other person.
Maybe
I want us to wrap up our discussion.
Let me just
say something very briefly, please.
Yes, very briefly, because we should not be misquoted out there.
Yes.
I've seen a situation where someone adopts a child and someone has a legitimate child, and the adopted child proved to be a better child for the person.
Yes.
And the person willed what he had to the adopted child and not to the legitimate child, so to say. So what we are saying is that we should incorporate morals, we should incorporate standards that in any way you are put, as far as you are a Cameroonian, you can work for the fatherland. That's the spirit we are actually talking about. For instance, it's very clear. The new SDO is not from FAKO.
It's not from FAKO.
But what he's doing, I'm not even sure if you had put a FAKO SDO there, would have done what he's doing.
Yes.
That people will go, we heard stories of people going there with 6 million to say, we just came to greet you and to welcome you to FAKO. He said, why are you welcoming me with money?
Yes.
Your word welcome is enough. Carry your money home. And he drove them with their money.
Yes.
You know? So I'm not sure if he were a FAKO man. I'm sorry, let it not be like I'm insulting FAKO people. I'm also a FAKO man. But I think God chooses leaders at certain moments. So if that's the person that the Lord has chosen, we accept him. At this time. Who knows, maybe the next person will come and then finish what he started. But we pray that another person may not come tomorrow and he said worsen the situation. So what we are saying is that it is not about being a Bakweri man or a FAKO man and you can function here properly. What we are saying is that we should inculcate the qualities of our fatherland. We should be responsible enough to call a wrong. Like I said, if you're a judge and your son does what is wrong and deserves to be sentenced, do not curry over the case and hide it because it's your son. Sentence him in public. And you will leave.
Others will learn.
Yes, you will leave a history that will serve for the next generation.
Wow, that's interesting. Yes, we are just wrapping up.
I was somewhere. Some people were talking. They said that the children that God created are no longer existing. Those that are existing now are the children created by angels who just say, let us just continue Papa's work. And the children now, they don't have the capacity.
That's an opinion.
That's why things are going the way they're going. Let me say, let me just come to where
very, very fast.
People are not true to self. That is why these things are happening the way they're happening. They are not true to self. The chief said that the SDO sent people back home with their money. It is because the people are used to that system of taking money to greet the new SDO. So they know that this one they will greet, and that money is just buying over the conscience of the SDO. Thank God for the time and for the man and for God that he is coming is for a mission, and he should take his mission right to the end. Yes.
Right.
So we thank the SDO for what.
And we thank the head of right. We extend we'll send our motion of support
we have to
through the FDA to the head of state. We're appointing a bona fide concerned person to head the division. Doctor.
I don't know. One last word.
Last word. We're wrapping up.
Okay, I will say there is this confusion. First of all, especially when it comes to the law, the 1974 law. Okay, Section 1 sub 2 talks about it says the state is the custodian, is the guardian of all lands in Cameroon. Now, most of the times we make the mistake of saying, oh, the state owns land and all of that. Whereas it is just a keeper. It protects, is there to guarantee for rational use.
That's how it's interpreted to us. By administrators, they say the state owns all land.
We're really out of time. We're really out of time.
So let us.
Thank you for
I'm calling on the. So I'm calling on the public to take to that, because there is that confusion, and it leads, when you are not informed, you are deformed. So let us be steadfast. Let us be upright in all transactions that we're doing, because the change will not come from the public. The change starts from me. What am I doing in my position as an individual, as a chief? Because charities begins at home. If I uphold those moral and right values, and I share them with the people around me, my immediate family, then I'll be able to reach out to the public. I'll be right. So let us be positive thinkers to bring change.
Right.
And it starts from us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear lady and gentlemen, Your Royal Highness, for, of course, accepting to be in the program. It's been a very successful program tonight. Thank you very much. We had in the studio His Royal Highness Chief Daniel DIPOKO. He is the the second-class chief of Missaka village. We also have in the studio LUMA EKEMA. He is an indigenous of Mukweland, a scholar and an advocate. We also have Mr. GOBINA Simon. He is an indigenous, a very vibrant youth in Bakweri land, and of course he's also a teacher. And of course, we had Dr. King Pelagie. She is a land justice advocate. She was very, very well represented here to interpret the laws for us. My name is Yanick FONKI. I want to specially thank Gwan Kindness for manning the broadcasting machines, as well as Mr. Etienne Tazofa for being very tireless in producing the program, and all those, Mr. Kaisa, and all those who have been very active in the work today. Emmanuel, good night. We'll see you again tomorrow.
say what I do and so na me be the problem.
Echo. Vraiment, il y passe. JC, il y go. Perfect. Precipitation a bad thing, eh? Precipitation a bad thing. Precipitation a bad thing. Il y passe. Il y passe fine. Ici.